This is a gallery from Guatemala, Proyectos Ultravioleta, which won Frieze Stand Prize award.
My name is Stefan Benchoam, and we started the gallery as an artist-run space in Guatemala City in 2009, together with Juan Brenner, Rodrigo Fernandez, and Byron Marmol. And since it's been changing and had different iterations, our current model is a hybrid where locally we still see and think of ourselves as an independent Kunsthalle of sorts, and then internationally we're doing art fairs and working as an international gallery, representing artists, doing art fairs, and promoting the work of the artists that we're working with.
So what do you have at Frieze London 2024?
So it's a two-person presentation between two artists from Guatemala, from the Mayan highlands, specifically a town called Chichot. It's an intergenerational presentation with historic miniatures of Rosa Elena Curruchich alongside contemporary works of Edgar Calel, who's arguably one of the best-known indigenous artists from Latin America in the present.
Tell me about the miniatures.
Yes, so these are miniatures by Rosa Elena Curruchich, and according to many, she's the first female indigenous painter of Guatemala to recognize, of course, herself as an artist. And that I mean in that Guatemala has a very long and millenary tradition with incredible artistry, but in many cases the artists that were practicing at the time and craftsmen didn't recognize themselves as such. In her case, these miniatures, they're genre paintings, and they're documenting different events and of the day-to-day activities of the town. Many of them actually feature women in the center of life, which is something that's unique and characteristic, especially given the very difficult history that she had throughout her life, and that being the first female indigenous painter of her community, she always had a sinking feeling that she would not be accepted by the predominant or by the male painting community. And sadly, that turned out to be true. When they did find out that she was painting and had a modicum success, some, not all of the painters actually felt a bit threatened or upset, and so she suffered a series of violences altogether, which is also why she moved to the miniature scale, so that she could paint in hiding and then also transport the works without being noticed.
And she was also the subject of exhibition in Venice Biennale, right?
Exactly. I mean, interestingly, her and her grandfather were both part of the show, the grandfather being the first Maya Kaqchikel painter of Guatemala, so they were featured alongside one another.
And the bigger ones are?
The bigger ones are the works by Edgar Calel. It's his latest series, and it's a series that in many ways is questioning land rights and ownership altogether. Specifically, the process is that he's using earth that he's, I guess, dug up in the surrounding forests of his community. He then uses that earth as pigment, covers the canvases, and starts to scrape off to reveal these drawings or images that are from some of the most iconic vistas of Guatemala. And then he writes across them, Venden, which is Spanish for "I'm being sold." Of course, this is a way that in many ways, I guess, governments or people in power tend to look at land in Guatemala and sadly around the world as something that they can just own, profit from, and exploit. In many cases, not realizing or wanting to recognize that there's people that have been there for thousands of years who have sustained that land altogether. That's why in the back of the works, in all of them, he's written in Kaqchikel, Mani yi na besk opich, which is that translates to "do not let go of me," which is a phrase that his grandmother used to bestow upon him and the family, of urging them not to let go of their lands, their traditions, and their way of life, because this is how they survive.
And the last question I have, I noticed that even the floor of your booth is covered with pine needles. What is it all about?
Correct. This is following a Maya tradition. It's actually a pre-Hispanic tradition through which Maya people up to now tend to scatter pine needles on the floor as a way to sacralize space altogether and prepare it for either ritual or to mark a celebration. So still to date, if you go to Chichot or any other of the Mayan communities around Guatemala, when you see a pine needle on the floor, that's marking the fact that they're celebrating something. And usually, according to that tradition, what you're doing, it's also an offering, because the more you step on the pine needle, the more the aroma is released, and that aroma is an offering to the ancestors and those who came before.
So I guess within the duration of Frieze Fair, it was a lot of offering, right?
Yeah, in a way. I mean, also it's nice because it's not only respecting that tradition, but also scent is one of the most powerful senses, and it has a capacity to transport you to different memories. And so in this particular case, there's been so many people who have said that they felt like they were somewhere else, even though we're in the middle of the tent.
Muchas gracias.
Un placer, un placer.